Okay, great. So, welcome. Let's just get this so I can see. Um, I want to see what people are posting, if anything. How do I do that? But yeah, welcome to this live stream session on how to avoid or recover from burnout. Just doing the obligatory bits of technical stuff that seems like we always have to do whenever there is whenever we're doing anything like this. Right, let's see. Okay, great. Yes, so I can see that there's some people here now. Hi, everyone who's here, and welcome to today's live stream on how to avoid or recover from burnout. So great that there's already some people have arrived. I'm sure there'll be more along in a bit. And if you're here, then I'd love you to just put a comment in, just a yo or where you're from or something like that. Hit me with some heart reacts, because the more of that sort of interaction that we get, the more people can potentially be reached and helped by this live stream as Facebook picks up on that. So it would be super appreciated. And for those of you that don't know me, I'm Sam Neffendorf, and I specialise in helping stressed and overwhelmed midlifers to avoid or recover from burnout and breakdown so that they can live a thriving and personally fulfilling life. And I've decided to really put a lot of attention into supporting people with burnout, because I really see it as a symptom of our disengagement with society and the way that it's just not working for everybody these days. So yeah, so I want to talk about burnout today, and this is going to be the first of quite a few live streams and sessions on burnout. Hey, hola Fede. Fede from Madrid. Yep, welcome. Good to see you here. And good to see everyone else who's here as well. Hit me with some comments or whatever. It'd be great to have that. And yes, so I'm going to look at what the mainstream view of burnout is, what is being talked about, and what I believe it to be, backed up with some cutting edge neurobiological research from meta consciousness and lots of other areas as well. Also then going to look at what you can do to avoid burnout or heal from it. So if you are, so there's stages that you go through, which I'll cover. Not everyone goes through the same stages, of course, but I'm going to cover them in a future live stream. But if you are starting to feel frazzled, burnt out in any way, then you might be able to nip it in the bud. But if you're already fully in the grip of burnout, then there are very similar ways that you can also heal and create a life more in line with who you are. So yeah, and if just one more thing, if you know anyone who might want to listen in, who could benefit from this, anyone you've seen looking a bit frazzled recently, then just yeah, you can either share this on your page, or you can tag people in the comments. And you know, the more people this gets to, obviously the more potential there is that someone could get some help from this. Could just be exactly what they need if they are starting to feel stuck and frazzled. And I'm going to be answering questions at the end. I might pick questions up as I go along. I don't always see them, so but you can put type questions in any time, and I'll make an effort to try and get to all of them at the end. And even if I miss them, I will answer them in the comments underneath the video afterwards. So that will still be available, and I promise I'll get to every question as soon as I can. Right, okay, so oh, by the way, you'll see I'm looking down. Of course, I'm using notes. There's a lot of information here, and I just want to make sure that you get as much as possible from this live stream. So what is burnout then? So yeah, well, here's what the World Health Organization says. it has now been officially recognised. It's taken a long time for burnout to be recognised as something in its own right, because it bears lots of similarities to other conditions, such as depression, aspects of anxiety, and I'll come on to that in a bit. But the World Health Organization's definition is feelings of energy, depletion or exhaustion, increased mental distance from one's job, or feelings of negativity or cynicism related to one's job, and reduced personal efficacy. So, what do you think of that? Interesting how they have related it exclusively to one's job and being able to function in your job. So while it's recognized, it's good that it's recognized, I just think it's very interesting that it's been specifically looked at your efficiency at work. Like, got to get people back to work. That's the priority here. And so keeping that system going, and that might be the right thing for some people, but for other people it may not. And it is recognized that workplaces are very stressful for a lot of people, and it's basically seen as the effect. Burnout is an effect of long-term chronic stress, and I'll go into why I don't think that is the case a bit later on. And the perceived way of dealing with it is stress management. So there's a term which is bandied about a lot: managing stress. So perceive that you have to remain in the stress, and how can you manage it better? Things like, there's lots of different ways of managing stress which are out there, and presumably with the aim of getting the workers back to the production line, desk, whatever. But like I said, there is a lot more to it, and we'll look at that in a bit. So before we get there, I'm just going to quickly let you know a bit about my personal experience with burnout. And funnily, I've just noticed someone who's come up from my past in the financial services industry as I talk about this. So good to see you, Matt. And so I did work in the financial services industry for 12 years. I had 2 years of traveling bang in the middle of that, but between the time of 1998 and 2000 and 2012, I worked in financial services with 2 years off in the middle of that. Now, there were some good times within that. It wasn't all bad, of course, but I can say for sure that I didn't have any passion for the work that I was doing. I was distant. So you could see that this fits in with what the World Health Organization say. I felt distant from work. I was very negative and cynical towards it. I can even remember the first job I got in financial services, working in a financial advice firm, photocopying application forms. I just thought, because everything was all about life assurance, I saw it as the death industry. And so I was pretty cynical about it from the word go. And hey, Matt, hi. And and so I did. I was never attached to that work, really. And after 6 years, I left that industry, and I swore I was never going to go back into that. So I went traveling. I had all these bright ideas of being able to come up with something amazing that I was going to do with my life when I got back from traveling. And even in 2 years, much ponderation going on. Hey, Sean, good to see you, mate. Yeah, Ola from South Wales. Yeah, awesome you're joining us. So I yeah, I thought I would come up with a good idea, but then when I got back to, came back to England, I ended up back in the financial services industry. I even got my old job back at a company with what I think is a very funny name, if you think about it, the meaning of it, Standard Life. So how may straight down the line is it possible to be? And it was actually, that was actually, it was, there was a lot of enjoyment working there, but the work was pretty meaningless, if quite lucrative. And of course, I was doing it because at the time I needed the money, and I kind of saw work as like a penance that I had to do in order to fulfill other aspects of my life. But the trouble is, it started bleeding in to other areas of my life. I got made redundant from Standard Life, and I thought, this is amazing. It's a great opportunity. I'm going to go and train as an acupuncturist, but I never did. I got quickly talked into starting a financial services business up. So I became a director of an independent financial planning firm. And my head said, this is a great opportunity, but my heart was like sinking. And if I knew then what I knew now, I would never have gone into that, because I basically went into it with already with an outlook that I wanted to get out of it before it had even started. So that was actually probably the toughest 3 years of all, was the time in when it was my own company. And by that time, I was heavily self-medicating and using that to escape. I was very cynical towards it. I had so simple symptoms for me would I would go and sit in the office and just be online, not really doing any work for hours at a time, even though it was my own company and my profit was directly related to what I did. I just couldn't handle doing most of the work. I couldn't stand the idea of the structure, the compliance. So yeah, I was very, very distant and cynical from the job. And when it really hit me that I had to do something about it was when I was on holiday in Spain, where not exactly where I live now, but similar. And I couldn't think of anything else other than work. So although I was in the pool, I should have been having a really, really nice time with my family, and I was just thinking about work. So it was really like leached into my life and was frazzling me and stopping my enjoyment of most aspects of my life, really. So yeah, so I certainly was stressed during that time, and that's what as the World Health Organization call it, the reason, the cause of burnout is chronic stress. However, I don't believe that stress is actually the cause of burnout. And in fact, stress isn't the cause of any condition, really. Oh, yeah. I got the end of that story is I did get out of financial service industry. I've now got a business now in international health business, working as a meta consciousness practitioner, tapping practitioner, and now really focusing on supporting people through burnout. And yeah, really enjoying a flexible life. But it did take a lot of time to do that. And going back to stress. So stress is not the cause of anything. If you think about it, let's say if I had a stick here, which I haven't got my prop, but if you've got a stick and I bend it, then the stick becomes stressed until it snaps. But is the stress the cause of that? No, it's not. It's the fact that I'm bending it. So there is an event actually happening to that stick. And the first symptom is actually the stress. So while it seems like, you will often hear it, even like in mainstream medicine, that stress is causing conditions, it ain't stress. Stress is the first symptom, and it's characterized by things like obsessive thinking, the you know, not eating very well, possibly having lots of energy, but you know, it's a borrowed energy. It's not a sustainable, ongoing energy, and ultimately there will be a price to pay for that. So it's, yeah, the first stage is really stress is being a symptom. And although stress is often happening, well, it's always happening in people who experience burnout, it's not the cause. It's symptom number one. So it's actually, as with any other health condition, it's part of the illness itself. It's just that the first part often goes physically unnoticed because the stress, while it does have some physical symptoms, it's mostly psychological. And there's a second stage of a health condition, whether it's physical, mental, or combination, such as how burnout and the associated conditions are, where you notice the physical things happening. And so it looks like stress has caused it, but it's not. So yeah, so there's a lot of conditions which are similar, might have similar symptoms to burnout, as I mentioned earlier. And this is why it can be quite difficult to identify what is actually happening. So examples are depression patterns. There's many different patterns of depression. There are anxiety patterns, could be running alongside depression. People, of course, who have got burnout going on might also be running a depression type symptom or symptoms or anxiety. There's also physical things such as an underactive thyroid and various reasons why that might be happening, and that could cause similar symptoms to burnout. And there's many more. Any of them could be going on alongside burnout. Great to see so many joining. Please, any heart reacts you can do, or any comments, anything like that, any interaction gets this out to more people. So be really grateful for that. That would be awesome. And if there's anyone you know who might be interested in this subject, feel free to tag them in the comments and they'll see it as well. So yeah, but the symptoms, so we're looking at symptoms of burnout, and these symptoms are to do with the adrenals, specifically the adrenal cortex. So the symptoms that we've noticed of burnout, which is that basically this depletion, exhaustion, lack of energy, mental distance, an empty procrastination, where you're just sitting blankly, that sort of thing. These are all to do with what's known as adrenal, it could be seen as adrenal fatigue or whatever. But when the adrenals are triggered, so a specific event or theme of what's going on in life, which might even remind you of something from your past, then you have, the adrenals are basically triggered and you start losing all of the energy and not being able to move forwards or really carry on as you are. And when the adrenals are triggered, in meta consciousness, coming from German New Medicine and Meta Health, you have the adrenals are basically, they represent where you are on your path in life. And we live in a world where people are conditioned to not be on their path. And, you know, there's so many people we're the most domesticated living species on the planet. From birth, the job thing, of course, but you have to get a job, stick with a job, and like your childhood, your schooling is almost your training to go into that domesticated job environment is very strong from birth, and even before birth, because we're starting to pick up the emotional signals and energetic signals from our, especially mother, but also parents, and even epigenetic stuff coming through the conditioning of our ancestors. So we're subjected to the and often well-meaning conditioning, family members trying to set you up for life, your culture, religion, education, all of this holding us in patterns of behavior and thinking that actually restrict our freedom and our own evolution. The mind control is very strong, and it's multi-generational and led into this a lot of it for good reasons, people wanting the best for their kids. And it's actually, of course, the vast majority of it is what you picked up through your senses in your early years as leads to your foundations of conditioning, which then continue throughout your life. Now, as a result of this, most people never really get to express themselves fully. So yeah, it's like it's a secondhand life, basically. It's not living to your true potential, really knowing who you are. It's living for the benefit of somebody else or of a system of society, rather than living individually as who you are, 100% who you are. And I think one of the biggest examples of this is the work that many of us do. So for many people, it's devoid of personal meaning. If you think, my work, while I was pretty good at being a financial advisor, it's quite successful externally at it, but it was totally devoid of meaning for me. I mean, sure, there was some aspects of, I'm helping people. And I even, saw myself as trying to help people against the banks and things like that, by doing the best for them. It was still very restrictive, and I was in a system that did not fulfill who I was. And and like most people's jobs, well, there's a lot. I want to say there are a lot of jobs out there where you can get purpose and meaning. For example, just off the top of my head, nursing. People don't go into nursing for the money generally. It'd be nice if they did get paid good money, but they're going into they've got a calling. A lot of people have got a calling to go into those sorts of jobs, like nursing, working with animals, working with children, these sorts of things. So those aren't, I don't necessarily say that all jobs are bad, and it can be, many people working for someone is the right way to go. It's not that everyone should be working for themselves or anything, but there's a lot of people who are out there and they're doing actually, I'm talking things like call center jobs, which they don't enjoy. Some people might enjoy that, but things just to pay the bills. And like I say, it's not even, that's not wrong, because you can live a fully expressed life and work for somebody else. You don't have to fulfill your values through your work, basically. Now, a lot of people, certainly entrepreneurs, do often focus on something that they're really interested in. But even people working for themselves, they might have noticed a niche, but they can fulfill, and you can still fulfill your values outside of work. So it's not that work is a bad thing for everybody. Of course it's not. Cheers, Matt. Glad you're finding it interesting. But it does seem to be the most recognized way that people are being led to burnout. There are others. It's not solely work that leads people to burnout. As I said, if it's the adrenal version, which is the one that I believe is most commonly being referred to, it is about not being on your path. It's running in the wrong direction, could even lead to things like chronic fatigue and many other health conditions that I'm going to cover in another live stream, because I could go off on so many different angles about this. But yeah, adrenals are your inner guidance system. Your subconscious guidance system is reflected in how your adrenals function. And, am I following my direction? Am I on my path? Am I doing what my purpose, mission? More like what really lights me up? What my unique expression of who I am. Am I doing that? And adrenal fatigue kicks in when basically, like I was at the sort of the tail end of my financial services career, about 6 months before I actually got out of it, or at least started extracting myself from it. It is, yeah, it kicks in when you're using your energy for the wrong thing. Your subconscious mind is perceiving that you're using your energy for the wrong thing and going against who you are for the sake of saving a job, could be saving a relationship if you're in a relationship, and you know, for maybe for some very good reasons, you're trying to keep things going, even though it doesn't. It's not a fulfilling place that you want to be anymore. But if you're going against your own path for any of these things, even not being able to make correct choices, so conflicts of decision making can fit into this, and that's why the procrastination can come in very strongly when you're reach adrenal fatigue, where you just can't make decisions anymore, so you do nothing, stare at the screen, looking for your dopamine hits on Facebook or whatever. So yeah, not being in tune with, but not being able to trust your intuition, your own inner guidance. So yeah, so what's the solution? Well, firstly, I want to say that it is important to symptom treat. Always important to symptom treat, but it's not enough to go if to just symptom treat and just go back to your job, because if you haven't resolved the root cause, then you are going to end up in a similar situation in some way. So symptom treatments, well, there's a wide range. Of course, there's the medical options, so that might be some form of medication. There's things like CBD oil, which is a very good, often a very good sort of nervous system treatment and calming. Loads of different herbal remedies. Having things like massages, doing mindfulness practice. I think that it can be seen as, and you know, I guess there's some employers out there who are trying to help their employees by bringing in mindfulness and things like that, and that's great. However, it's almost like, let's see if we can give the drones a bit of peace in their work life, so we can then turn the screw a little bit harder. So I'm burnt out about mindfulness at work, cynical and jaded. So but you know, I guess for some people it's the right thing. Meditation can be very useful, and you know, if people are fulfilling their life outside of work and fulfilling their values, then they might, you know, just having the job as what they do to keep the family with shoes, then you know, great. It's not everyone. It's not all about sticking your finger up at the boss, slamming the door, smashing everything up on your way out the office. So yeah, so basically, I said, they just came back, right? So so symptom treatments important, but going deeper, finding the root cause, finding the reasons why you are triggered into not feeling like you are on your path through the work that you're doing, and breaking your conditioning, basically. And that conditioning is your personal conditioning from your own upbringing and every aspect of that, like we covered earlier: education, religion, your family, your culture, all of those things. But yeah, then there's the societal stuff, like the media, the system of governance in whatever country you're in, the expectations. There's so many different things, and key parts of doing that are getting to the core of your beliefs and understanding the limiting beliefs that might be holding you in place. For me, for many years, I didn't think that I was intelligent enough to be able to make money doing something that I enjoyed and was passionate about, and I just didn't even know what that was. As a child, I never had any idea of any sort of work that I wanted to do as an adult. And I ended up going down a well-trodden path of yeah, school, university, because I still didn't know what I wanted to do, doing a pretty meaningless degree, really, but I did have some good times, and I met my now wife there. So there was a lot of worthwhileness in it. And then I ended up falling into a job like so many people do, because people aren't really being taught how to think. It's more about what to think in these environments. So yes, but a core thing is exploring your values and making sure that you're fulfilling them, as well as clearing those beliefs from your past while symptom treating. And I just want to say, as I said, it's not necessarily about leaving a job. It might well be, but I've worked with people close to retirement, and for them, they've got to a stage where they've really had enough, but it's not ecologically worth them. Ecological mean, if you're looking at a sort of bigger picture in someone's life, worth them leaving, burning their bridges at that time, because they are looking, they've got their pension coming and everything. And I've had excellent results with some people like that, using tapping to change their relationship with how they feel, clear all the resentments, etc., so they can really look forward to actually living a life that is really theirs, and they know they might have 18 months, 2 years or whatever to actually get to that stage. I've got just one case recently where I was able to, someone who had about 2 years to go till they retired, and they were also subject to workplace bullying. And actually, through working, she was able to stand up for herself against a bullying boss, and she actually was able to get a constructive dismissal case, and ended up with, I think that's the term for it, and she ended up with a pretty hefty sum of money, not millions or anything, but more than enough to get her to retirement, which was coming up in around 2 years, so that she could then really look. So she didn't have to stick with the job, and she still ended up with a pension situation because she found her bravery, and was able to stick up against what had been causing the burnout. But that's not just at retirement. At any stage of life, giving your boss the finger might not be the ideal situation. So it's really key in those situations, if it's ecological, that you have to stay at a job, whether that's forever. Well, forever sounds ominous, but for a while, or while you start creating something else. I didn't just leave what I was doing immediately. I phased myself out of it into my new life, and but finding ways to get more meaning and fulfillment, make peace with being in the work that you're doing for a while, that can be great. But for many other people, then a true solution is to really get on that life path and break free from that second-hand life, really. And that, so I think the figures, it's about 30 to 40% of people are stressed, very stressed at work, and that stress is a symptom that's caused by events or a pattern linking back to the past. And as I said, the foundation of doing this is understanding your personal values and then creating a life that fulfills them. Doing that can really trigger you to find your past traumas that are holding you back from that, because when you start actually looking to change your life, it can get big, it can get scary, and that's when the really good juicy stuff comes up that you can then work on with your techniques of choice, whether it's EFT, matrix reimprinting, hypnosis, NLP, the journey, any of the things that, the many things, meditation practices, the many things that people can do to, yeah, rewire themselves, basically shift their beliefs into creating more possibilities, reduce the emotional attachments, then, you know, you've got that foundation. It's very strong. So, yeah, so you resolve the past traumas, and it can be from the situation that led to burnout. So, through no one's fault particularly, because it wasn't like I was not badly treated in any of the jobs that I did, but nonetheless there were situations that, you know, and belief systems that I created during that time about not going to be able to make it doing anything else, those sorts of things. And just even just remembering back to those bleak times, just staring at the screen in a boring office and just, oh, what am I doing here, those sorts of things I was able to resolve with tapping techniques and release myself to be able to move forwards. And, you know, I probably got out before I hit what would be called burnout at a full level. But yeah, you can, so yeah, releasing and clearing your conditioning so you can stop being that good, obedient one that you grew up having to be. Now, you know, and it's understandable that children can often feel this way, that they have to be that good, obedient one, because it's a survival strategy ultimately, not being kicked out from the modern equivalent of the tribe by going against the rules. However, you don't need to carry that childhood forwards into your life. And, you know, as an adult, when burnout is a classic example of when the symptoms are showing that, yes, you've had enough of living that pattern. It's no longer serving you. It might have been right at that time. Milton Erickson, the father of modern hypnosis, stated that every problem was once a solution. So, but you know, do you want a 6-year? Would you accept a 6-year-old telling you how to live your life? Well, maybe, but not really. So you are still subconsciously, if you're still living those patterns of playing small, keeping it safe, being the good one, doing what you're told, then you are basically you're doing what you had to do back then. And these techniques can really help you to release that so you can move forwards. Now, if you actually are fully in burnout and it's got to a stage where it's chronic, then these same things apply, but it's going to be, you have to be patient and understand that it might take some time of gently unpicking things in a way that is viable to you. And that could, it's better to have, of course, avoided before you get to that stage. But if you are, you know, when your body is literally crying out, telling you that you're not on your path, then it is about using everything at your disposal, whatever's viable for you. Tapping techniques, brilliant, of course, but also, you know, you're going to want to look at sustaining yourself with diet wise. Exercise is very important. If you're not doing any form of exercise, definitely these are things that you want to do to actually stimulate your system as much, whatever is viable to you, really, and starting at the level that you are at. But what it all comes down to is, you know, at some point when you step out of this compliant sort of side, which is no longer serving you, you've got to take a risk of some kind. And also, you know, understanding that there might, but the risk of fully expressing your nature, which you don't have to do all in one massive blam. It can be over a period of time, start moving towards that, even an exploration, starting to create a future that you want and start to draw it in to your life, understanding that there are going to be consequences. You are going to become different. Relationships might change. People may not be supportive because other people are also conditioned as well. And so it can be quite scary for other people when you suddenly shift and change paths. So there can be a lot to deal with here, which is why it's great to actually do it in an ecological, sustained way, which is, I think most people like things to be at a reasonable level of safety in their lives. Yeah, there are huge risk takers, and yeah, that's great for them too if they're prepared and can cope with the risk. But if you've got more things hanging on it, such as your income is supporting your family, your children, etc., then then it's a case of unpicking these things more slowly and seeing that you are on a path where even the smallest bits of progress can be, noticing them and celebrating them, really. So, as always with these live streams, there's probably some things I meant to cover, but I didn't. But yeah, I just invite you to put any questions that you've got in the comments on anything that I've said or anything else about burnout, anything you'd like me to talk about. And while I'm waiting for those questions, I'd just like to say that, if you're ready to leave your cage and create this life that's truly and richly yours, or if you're just noticing burnout and want to explore what you can do about it, you can book a call with me. You can contact me by Facebook, or you can email me at sam@eftnow.co.uk, and we can just book in a time for a 15-20 minute chat, see where you are. I can give you some insights into your symptoms, what your body is telling you from the perception of meta consciousness. So it's not about your body's making a mistake. Actually, whatever your body's doing is an intelligent response, such as the adrenal showing you're not on your path. Other symptoms have intelligent responses as well. So we can book in a call, which is free, and talk about those things. And I just want to let you know also that I have solutions for which there's group-based solutions, which are lower cost, and then there's one-to-one work, which can be in more detail generally, and more specific to you. But of course, it's a more involved and higher financial process as well. But there's options available for, and in fact, there's actually lots of free stuff available too, which I can also point you at. So you can email me, you can message me on Facebook. In the comments, I'll drop a link to my calendar if anyone wants to book in as well. And yeah, okay, so that was my first live stream on burnout. And if anyone's got any questions now, just hang about for another minute or so, just see if any of those come up anywhere that I've put this this live stream. Okay, so it doesn't look like there's any specific questions that anyone's got. Hope you found it interesting, a different view on burnout than what's generally being touted out there. And remember, as with everything, getting to the root cause is key. Once you can resolve the root cause and the beliefs that are associated with it, then you have a greater chance of actually living a life that is truly yours. And that when you are living that way, it is a lot more powerful for being resilient and actually able to withstand the things that might cause you to go into burnout. Cheers, Fede. Thanks for sticking around, and it'd be great to see you soon. Okay, right. So that's it for now. Going to say bye-bye. Lots of heart reacts, and over and out.